All right, welcome everyone. Today we have Cindy and Zina and myself, and we're going to be talking about the natural unfolding that happens in the yoga teacher training program. Actually, before we were recording, Cindy and I were talking about just the natural, beautiful unfolding that happens while being in a program like this. And um, it really is an unfolding. And I find it very interesting because we often have an intention, or we think we know why we're joining a program like this. And then as we go through the program, it unfolds, right? And we realize, oh, there's really more here, or the other reasons kind of make themselves visible over time. And so I would love to hear from you, Cindy, about what you're unfolding through the last, I guess it's like 8 months now,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
What's funny is I remember when we started, the first day they said, I can't remember what teacher was saying that the program, maybe it was you, the program is 9 months. And I remember thinking, wow, that's like birthing a child, a baby. And I feel like through this process, it's been a transformational, like at first, because I teach Qigong, I thought, oh, this will be a nice complement to Qigong as learning yoga. But it became so much more than learning yoga. It became this transformation for myself at so many levels, like even how I'm eating my food, like more mindful of my body, which blew me away because I thought I ate well. And even through the yoga practice, me having to take care of myself became really apparent. And the philosophy, even the deep philosophy of yoga that is interesting at one level, but even now going for a walk and noticing my mindset, I'm understanding how the depth of what we learned through philosophy and the teachings is more than just learning something that sounds interesting, but actually becomes a lifestyle.
Mm.
And then I feel like now my teaching is more my experience versus just memorizing some really cool concepts. There's like this whole unraveling and a deepening part of who I am. I feel like it's going to be like, this is just the beginning. And like, it's going to be an endless journey, which kind of makes it really exciting because it's a journey and there's constant learning through the yoga practice for myself, but also what I can share. So yeah, the program's been more, I guess that's where the beyond part is. It's way more than I could even have imagined.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And what strikes me with that is it sounds like it's integrating. Like and it sounds very quick. Like it sounds like, I mean, integration happens in its own time, but to be like, it's almost like you're walking and it's like, oh, I feel that. Like it's not just here, it's coming into the body, which is very different. It feels different.
Yeah,
Mm.
because even with the yoga, like before when I used to do yoga poses, I wanted to look perfect and pretty, probably. And then it became more, what do I feel in my body as I make this pose? So, or as I'm doing this pose, so it become this embodied practice. But then the integration is that it becomes even, how am I thinking? How am I treating myself? How am I walking in the world? Do I know who I am? So it's so much more than what I thought, which is, I knew the mind aspect of holding a pose and being meditative, but I didn't realize it's even the little subtleties of who am I and who am I in the world and how do I see myself and how do I treat others and how do I treat myself? All
Mm.
these layers that is quite amazing. Personally, it's been amazing physically, but also for my own self evolution, really.
It's funny because I remember this phrase of like yoga as a way of life or something like that. Like it's almost something you'd see on a t-shirt or a bag. And I almost, when I would hear it, I automatically just thought it's like oh, there's these different lifestyles that people tend to lead, right? Like you think of soccer moms, or you think of um, what's coming to mind is like vegans, right? Like it's a way of living your life. It's how you see the world. It's maybe not soccer mom so much, but like there's just a lifestyle. But then I didn't understand it really is the teachings within yoga is teaching. It's a way that you live your life. It's like you said, how you're walking in life, how you're responding to everything that you come into contact with. It's how you respond to your experience and how you live your experience and interact with life itself. Um, and that is, for me, was mind blowing, because I really did think it was the physical practice, that it was the physical poses. I didn't realize, as I think many people don't realize, that yoga as a whole is actually a way of living.
Yeah, the I think the most profound moment was I had cut my hand during the program. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I won't be able to go. What am I going to do? And then one of the anatomy teacher, Simone, said, well, come, because we can show, it can be a good teaching when you do become a teacher, of what different ways you can do postures when you have an injury. So physically, I was like, okay, so I was learning, instead of using my palms, I could use my forearms. I wouldn't push myself too much, because if I pushed, the whole chain might affect my shoulders, my gait. So I was learning in myself. I don't always have to be doing everything. So I learned a lot. But I think the most profound part was I went to a yoga class, and I was telling her how stupid I was that I cut myself and blah, blah, blah. And then the yoga teacher said, do you know yoga philosophy, to the whole group? And I said, yes. And she goes, do you know what ahimsa is? And then in that moment, I realized, oh, the yamas and the niyamas, the ahimsa. And in that moment, I realized that it's about doing no harm. But I was doing harm by even saying, cutting myself was stupid. So my language became that way. And also, if I pushed myself in the yoga, that would be doing harm. So it became, even in the practice, how am I treating myself? Am I pushing to be the perfect posture and do like what everyone else is doing? Or am I just doing, not just, am I doing what is going to support my body? And I feel like the yoga, through the anatomy, through the philosophy, it's that, what is the most ideal for my body that's not going to cause injury, that I can teach others proper, but also how am I treating myself as well?
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. Amazing how you're sharing, and it's so deep in a level. Noticing your thoughts, and from the thoughts, the words that's coming out, and it is like, when people hearing, yoga teacher training is just like poses and the fancy poses, but it's so much. And I think at ClearBeing we're going very deep, right? Like with the philosophy, and that it's on the land. So with even like, the nature that it's around us. Yeah, how it's for you to come to ClearBeing, to that space, how it feels for you, Cindy.
Yeah, it's been so nice, because the land is so beautiful. So you're in this open space with beautiful trees, and as you're doing the yoga practice and teaching, you're looking out at the most beautiful land. And so you're really immersed in nature, which I really feel allows for that place of space, but also really deep place of connection as well. So, and even just breaks, just even to take a minute and breathe and be with her, was really important. So the land is sacred, and it's such a beautiful place to be. So much prana and good energy, and a beautiful facility too. Yeah, amazing.
Beautiful, thank you.
I was
And,
watching back on some of our videos that we had recorded, and
yeah,
it's so cool to see the different seasons.
Seasons,
yeah,
yeah.
I
Like
saw that.
winter and
Yeah,
fall, and
And
then
it's so
spring.
interesting that you're mentioning it. A week ago, I was just at ClearBeing, and in a week, it's just such a change. It's like all green and beautiful. It's amazing. Like that now, the season with all the green colors,
It
and not
pops.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the journey we had, because we started in the fall, we're letting go of stuff, going deep in the winter, and then we're done in the spring where it's like new beginnings. Here we go.
New
You kind of get it.
beginning.
In the in-between, it's like, wow, there's so much to learn. And then it's like, oh, that wasn't as that didn't seem as hard as it seemed in the moment, maybe.
It's almost
Oh,
like
that's interesting.
perfectly, yeah, it's almost like perfect. It's like you come full circle, and it really is a
Ah,
beautiful way to look at it symbolically, and um of like the timing of that, of a program, of like you enter into a program, and yeah, there is all this stuff that desires to be let go of, to be shed. um there's, we were talking, I think, with Eva, and she was talking about like letting go of everything she'd learned in yoga previously because of all the things that really didn't resonate in other trainings she had. And then you go into winter in this place of just being with everything, and it's almost like just allowing everything to settle, allowing everything to integrate. And then when we come out in spring, it's that clarity that comes through, which I think both of us have kind of had that in the last couple of weeks, because we were talking about that, of like just this
Mhm.
clarity, this opening that happens. And it's not like we showed up, but we didn't do anything for it to just suddenly, it's just like, wow, okay,
Mhm.
I get it now.
ah.
I got it.
It was kind of cool because we have like the take-home exam for anatomy, and I'm an acupuncturist, so I've learned anatomy, but I loved anatomy because it was more it was in a movement perspective, so it was quite amazing. And so I finished it, and I had my husband proofread it, and he's like, wow, you learned so much. You forget how much you learned because you're like, oh, I know all this. Like I answered it. It was, we had time to do it. But when someone else, another perspective that hasn't gone through it, was like, holy cow, you learned a lot. Like, and how you use anatomy with the poses, and, how to make them, safe, and why you want to do these in certain ways. It's pretty amazing when you see someone else go, holy cow, you really learned a lot. I'm like, yeah, I did. And it feels good to have it done too. It's like that was a full journey. Like there was so much to learn, but it was in a nice 9 months to kind of take it in, versus like, we had time to really digest it, which is that integration that you were talking
Mhm. Yeah, and it feels now spring. It's also like, new and fresh you with all, yeah, learnings who I am. I love that you shared, and it is like a lot of yeah, insights coming. I had the yoga teacher training, and I remember it's like, the questioning that, the teacher's asking, and I'm asking myself, and and through it I will learning how to connect with others and how to ask them in the future. Like, it's all that process of yeah, relationship.
And I think what I loved about the program too was there was like four different four teachers, right? Three, four,
For teachers, yeah.
four teachers, four, yeah. And
Daniel, Kalusha,
everyone
yeah.
had their own style. Like it
Yeah.
was so, because it was like everyone had their own particular style and their own wisdom, but it's kind of, for me, it's like, oh, okay, so who is Cindy as a teacher? Because I saw these reflections of different
Mhm.
approaches to it. And it's
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
okay, so who am I? And then who am I as a teacher? It becomes this whole, it's almost like there's freedom of, there's, know the basics, know anatomy, know what's safe, and there's a play in that. And I think that's what I taken home from this, is each person was so unique, each teacher, but there was a knowledge in every person, and I learned from everyone, but there is space for my own unique expression of it. And it's
Mhm.
celebrated in this program. It's like Jenny will say, it's a playground. You're going to get messy. Like, just, it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to make a fool. It was like celebrated. If you make a mistake, yay, we can learn from that. Like it felt safe to learn, which is such a different way of being in school that I remember, of like, oh my God, I'm so scared I'm gonna get in trouble. It was more of a really supportive environment to learn and to grow, because we are learning. That's why we're here. So that was a huge take home too. like, take the
Mhm.
pressure off, enjoy the ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just that encouragement to practice, and through that, you know, the process of practicing and learning, of the stumbling and the, you know, we won't get our words right, and we might forget something, we might go blank, we might stumble along the way, but that is, like you said, it was encouraged, or it has been encouraged this entire time. Um, yeah, and that's just freeing, I think, you know, how I don't ever remember that being a way of learning in any of the schoolings that, any of the school programs that was ever in. It was all about getting a higher grade and doing better and doing perfectly, and
And yeah, being
the
perfect.
pressure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
Perfect.
pressure, so much pressure. And I
Yeah.
felt with this training that I was unraveling some of that, you know.
Ah,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and it's funny because I find when I'm practicing now, or in like doing my teaching, when I let go of the perfection, my class is so much better. I find when I'm like trying to be something perfect, it just doesn't flow as well. And that was something I definitely unraveled through this process.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that you know more than enough to lead a beautiful class, right? With everything that you have available to you, that it doesn't have to look it doesn't have to look like anything. It just gets to be a channel through you. It just gets to be an unfolding coming through you, rather than this kind of like, I don't know, some strict, you know, checkbox of things that you do.
Mhm.
Yeah. And Zina, just going back to what you said about the land, I just remembered one of the what I loved about the land was we did that silent retreat, which was
Mm.
part of the yoga teacher training. So we immersed ourselves in the environment. And that was, I think, the moment where I started to really, because it was such an amazing environment, being in nature and connecting, but also living the principles that we learned. And I remember Karusha at one point said, so this is what we're doing. This is, if you put it in philosophy of yoga, this is what it means. And I was like, oh, now it's starting to come together what all this I'm learning is
Mm.
about. So that silent retreat became such a pivotal part of really integrating and embodying what we've been learned at a school level. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's something really special that this program has, is the land. And, Carolyn DuPont, who is unbelievable at holding space, and her soul coaching and all her meditative teaching, that silent retreat was such a pivotal part of integrating everything. Forgot
Mhm.
about that. So
Amazing.
that
Thank you
was,
for
yeah,
sharing. Yeah, thank you
yeah,
for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing that it is an opportunity of 3 days. Yeah, to have that retreat with all your um, students that you're actually like, you know them already, right? Like, so you are getting together and having that experience with all the teachings and just practicing it
yeah.
in a
And
deeper
even like
way.
mindful
Yeah.
eating, like all the
Hmm.
different principles.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
It was
Thank you.
such an
Thank
amazing journey. I can't believe it's almost done.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a realization the last weekend we were there. I was like, oh, there's only like 2 more weekends left. So yeah, it
Yeah.
went by so fast.
Oh, I know it's true. But it was such, like, it went by fast, but it was so rich at the same time. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's all the dogs barking today.
Oh, can you hear my dogs too? Yeah.
All right, that's feeling complete for me. I just want to check in with
Yeah.
either of you.
Feels
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank you so
having me
much.
go through this journey of like kind of going through what the past 9 months have been. Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you for coming.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
Enjoying
beautiful
us.
reflection, like a reflection of like, wow, this is all that happened.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Oh, all of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.